Meeting to order. It's April 29th, 2014, Committee of the Whole. But before we move on, I'd like to take a moment of silence for the warden's sister, Germaine, who passed away. And I'd like to take a moment of silence, please. All right, we'll move on to number 2, the approval of the agenda. Anybody care to move the approval of the agenda or any additions to the agenda?
So second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Okay. Motion carried. Move on to conflict of interest declaration. Anybody have a conflict of interest? Any of the items? Having heard none, we'll move on to number 3, which is presentation, and it's the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation. It'll be Paulette, Sweeney-Goodwin. Step right up to the mic, and you can maybe introduce your colleagues at the same time, please.
Certainly, it's certainly a pleasure to be here this evening. I'd like to introduce our board chair, Shirley D'Entremont, and a representative at large from the Municipality of Argyll, Catherine Murphy. So, thank you very much for having us in here this evening. We just have a very brief presentation to do. And you've probably heard a little bit about it already from other various sources, but certainly we're pleased to be here to talk a little bit this evening about the Enhancing Healthcare campaign that we are embarking upon now. And just coming off the heels of a very successful spring gala on Saturday evening, and thank you very much for supporting that as well, and a preliminary total of $43,000, and that will climb over the next few weeks as it usually does. And all of the monies that were raised there will be going directly towards our initiative of enhancing healthcare and the 2 pieces of equipment that I'll be talking about in just a moment. So from diagnosis to treatment, we can certainly do a lot when we work together. And we know from the past experiences that the support from the Municipality of Argyll has certainly been there. They've been partners with us in healthcare. You certainly realize, it's very clear from your previous support that you realize the benefit of supporting healthcare for your constituents, because everything that we do not only benefits the community, and it impacts each of you personally as well. We're all healthcare consumers, all of us. So we never lose sight of that. So often we're asked who our funding partners are, and the funding partners are the Women's Auxiliary. They're certainly one of our first ones to step up to the plate whenever we go into a campaign. And as, again, on the heels of the Spring Gala on Saturday evening, after the total for the evening was announced, our campaign chair, Greg Barrow, was very pleased to announce that the Women's Auxiliary had stepped up to the plate and made a lead gift of $150,000 towards the campaign. So this is absolutely fantastic, So that's very encouraging to see this wonderful support in the community as we're endeavoring to raise the monies that we need for the very important equipment. Along with the Women's Auxiliary, of course, as I mentioned, the town and municipal units, businesses comprise of our funding partners as well, community groups, and finally individuals who are so invested and again realize intuitively how important it is to support healthcare in the community. So a very special thanks to the Municipality of Argyll, because again, as I alluded to just a few moments ago, the support that has been here throughout the years has been nothing short of phenomenal, both from the council around the table here and also from your community. We have a database of donors, and we see firsthand the support that we get from individuals within your community as well. So for the municipality of the District of Argyll and this council, there's been a little over $500,000 that has been contributed towards the initiatives of the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation to ensure that we can deliver the best health care that we possibly can for the residents of our community. And those campaigns that the municipality of Argyll has supported were the hospital expansion, the MRI campaign, and the diagnostic imaging campaign. So between those three major initiatives, it's been about $500,000 in the last, since the mid-90s. So, and as you can see here, I always like to throw this slide in here because, you know, it puts it all in perspective when you look at the wonderful healthcare complex that we have, because everyone understands how important healthcare is in the community. And when we look at our regional health center serving Digby, Shelburne, and Yarmouth counties, we impact 64,000 individuals within those three districts. So it's healthcare, as we know, is tremendously important. Another one I like to just throw up because it puts it in perspective when we look at Mrs. Ruth Pink, and this is a wonderful lady. She's well into her 90s now, and she's always very quick to remind us that the work of supporting and sustaining a great hospital is never done. It's always ongoing, and especially with the equipment needs, it's paramount. And to keep up with that and the technology, as we all know, I mean, if we looked at one of our computers, and if we had one at our desk here that was 11 years old, need I say more? We'd be talking about a dinosaur. So this is where we step in and make sure that we have the best of the equipment that's available today. And meeting the healthcare needs of today, we're looking at the need that we're focusing on right now, dollar-wise, is $754,000 to fund two very important areas of the hospital: diagnostic imaging and pharmacy. Now, the CT scanner is $359,000 for that, our portion of it, that is the 25%, and the medication management system is $395,000. So that will, again, bring our total to the $754 that we have committed to raise monies for this year. The CT scanner was identified as a high priority item because the diagnostic imaging department was experiencing breakdowns, again, think of 11-year-old equipment, and it was becoming it was quite a hazard actually for the patients, and the absence of service, it was a risk to healthcare. So the hospital certainly made sure that they would work as much as they could and bring their funding partners around, think the foundation and the Women's Auxiliary, to ask if we could pledge 25% to ensure that the hospital would have the type of service and not a discontinuance of service. It was very important that we put that in place. So the benefits of the new CT scanner are the advanced software allows for more confident diagnosis, and so that's something, of course, that is paramount. Low-dose lung screening is now also possible, and advanced cardiac imaging is a prominent feature of the new CT scanner. So this is really quite an improvement over the older scanner that was there. Additional benefits are patient safety. One of the things we've been told by Dr. Joel Surratt, who is Chief of Diagnostic Imaging, is that 40 to 80% reduction in radiation on the new CT scanner. And for this, and it depends on the type of test that's given as to the percentage of reduction. And of course, we never lose sight either of the fact of the physician recruitment and retention. And I know we've certainly made great strides throughout our community with the support from councils in having the residency program now, and that bodes very well for the future of doctors in our community. But again, we can't sit back on our heels, and those doctors coming in, they expect that we are going to have the best equipment possible for a regional health center. So just to speak a few moments on the two types of, the second type rather of equipment, and that's the medication management system. And this is phase 2. When I say phase 2, the first phase was funded by the foundation last year. We didn't go to campaign for that portion of it. It was considerably smaller, but now they're rolling it out. They introduced it first in Emerge, and it certainly worked so well there. Now it's going to be on all of the nursing floors. And unlike the CT scanner, where that's selective depending on the type of tests that you're doing, almost every single person who comes into the hospital has to have medication. So that medication management system and the way it is delivered, it has changed drastically with the introduction of the new system. And what you can see on this slide here is the before and the after. On the left, you'll see what a medicine, it's almost like a medicine cabinet in your own home in a sense. And in that regard, if you have that many bottles there, it's sometimes in how incredibly busy it can be on the floors, there's a high risk of maybe taking the wrong bottle. And that has happened not in our hospital, just in our hospital, but across the country. They recognize this as certainly a safety issue for patients. I will tell you that this medication management system, our hospital was only one of 10% in the country that did not have this type of system in place. And it's incredibly important, again, from a safety aspect. When you look on the right-hand side, you'll see I don't know if you can see up close enough or not, but the drawers that pull out, it's a unit dose type of dispensing of the medication. There's not a bottle of pills anymore. It's one pill or as many pills that are required inside that particular individual package. So from a safety aspect, it's paramount, and also very cost effective because the medications that are used for the patients on the floors can be put back in the system when that patient is discharged or passes. Either or. So there's no wastage in any of these with the medication management. One of the things I found very interesting with Nancy McLaughlin, the district manager for pharmacy, was she mentioned that in a timely manner, the medications now will get to the patient so much quicker. In the past, it was 2 to 2.5 hours before the medication would get to the patient. Now the turnaround time is about 30 minutes. So that's incredible. That doesn't mean that if they need it, certainly if they needed medication right then and there, they would receive that. But the filling of the entire prescription, it would take about 2.5 hours. So this is an incredible strides in healthcare. Now, along with the patient safety, I mentioned about the reduction of medication error. The other thing is that the patient care time for both nursing and pharmacy, it increases that time spent with the patient. And again, that's a very important thing. If any of us were in hospital, we would certainly appreciate the extra time that medical staff can take with us. So that brings to the conclusion. I'd like to put it open to any questions, and I will leave you with the formal request to reflect in your minutes. And I know we did send out on April the 4th the complete package that indicates what we are asking from the municipality of Argyll, and that's for a contribution of $31,070. So that is your portion based on inpatient days, the percentage of inpatient days that we see at the Yarmouth Regional Hospital from the municipality of Argyll. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation, and now we'll open the floor for any questions. Councillor LeBlanc.
Just very quickly, how were you able to determine the percentage of patients coming in are from Argyll? Just curious.
Excellent question. Yes, how we determine that is we get the statistics from the hospital, from administration, and we request the total stats for the last fiscal year, for their 2012-2013 year, and in it, it will break down by municipality how many patients that were actually seen at the hospital on an inpatient basis during that time. So then we took the 210,000, used that percentage, and come up with the amount that we're requesting tonight.
So that's inpatient, the ones that are admitted.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Inpatient, I don't know if outpatient is part of that or not. I always think of it as people who are admitted.
Councillor Surratt.
Hi, Paulette.
Hi, Guy.
When I first looked at the request, it looked like $310.70.
I know I had a comment.
Jumping, man, I'll pay that myself. But I guess
Dig in your own pocket.
the comma was put in the wrong place. Is what happened. So,
I picked that up
anyhow,
afterwards.
Can we make that one a motion?
The
Continue.
We're not letting you off the hook that easy, huh?
the question I've got is that medication system.
Yes.
It seems like an awful lot of money. So, is it like cabinets they're putting on each floor
Yes.
of each unit?
That's correct. It's not just cabinets. It's actually, and I know if Nancy McLaughlin was here, she could probably do a much better job, but I'll take an
Sure.
attempt at this. What it is, it's actually a whole system. There's a computer component of it as well. And at any time, if anybody would like, to contact me, I could make an arrangement to do a walkthrough with Nancy McLaughlin. But it is all computerized as well. When they rolled it out in the Emerge, for example, they had it's identified the person who is gaining access for the medication management system. They're identified by their fingerprint or their thumbprint over the front of it. So it's a software package, and the medication, the safety features are built in every step of the way, from the time that they're filling up the dispensing cabinets until the time it gets to the floors, to ensure that the right medication is given to the right person at the right time.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Don't see any more lights, so just CA Muse?
Just a question on the fundraising effort itself. So, what is your anticipated timeframe for fundraising? So, you're doing fundraising, you're getting the money now. When do you anticipate that you, I guess, in an ideal world, will be purchasing this equipment moving forward?
Actually, the equipment, because the need was so great, the equipment is already in place. And again, that's a very excellent question, because the reason that we have stepped up and committed towards the end of 2013 that we will assist with the funding is that under this funding formula that currently exists, 75% of the equipment was funded by the Department of Health, contingent on 25% being contributed from our community. So to ensure that we would not lose that 25%, that 75%, our board made the decision to fund, or to raise the monies to fund that 25%.
Okay, so you're looking for the money, not only are you looking for the money from municipal units, you're looking for it earlier rather than later.
Yes,
What I'm hearing.
yes,
Okay,
yeah. As
thanks.
soon as the municipal units can respond, we greatly appreciate it.
Councilor Muse?
The scan machine has already been in place, is that correct?
The scan machine, yes.
That the new one is there now? So they put that before you raise the money? How did that work?
Yeah, well, again, because of the fact that there was a risk to the patient because of the lack of service, if that system is down, if you have a trauma patient coming in from a car accident and we have no CAT scan, that's very serious. So the need was so great, they had to move very quickly on it, and where the request for the medication management system came in at the same time, and the approval from the Department of Health, our board made the decision to fund both of them at the same time, the 25%.
Okay, and this 210,000 that I'm looking at here, that brings you to the full amount that you need, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
From between the Women's Auxiliary, under 150, very generous,
Yeah.
150,000 contribution,
And 43.
and then what we're looking at from collectively from the municipal units, the 6 municipal units of 210,000, we will be approximately halfway there. And then we have other areas that we will be looking at. Greg Barrow is working with his committee now, and they'll have a major gift component, working with businesses, individuals on the major gift, and that's 275,000 that their target is. And then when you think of the gala on Saturday night, the Jody Shelley coming up, we have a spring appeal and other initiatives, along with third-party events in the community. We're very confident that we'll reach, with the support of our community, we will reach that target of 754,000 before year end.
Okay. Just another quick question. With the gala, the 43,000, is that profit?
Yes.
43,000?
It's net.
It's
That's
net.
net. Yes,
Wow.
it is. We always report net for our events. And I'll tell you what, we're so blessed. We have tremendous support in our community. When we look at our lead sponsor, the Yarmouth Dental Group, and then our gold sponsors, one of your own in your own community, Gordon Muse, is such a wonderful supporter and has been with us 10 years and a gold sponsor for 10 years. So he, along with many others, are the ones that make sure that when we can put on an event of this caliber without cost to us. So the cost is basically covered by our sponsors, and we, before the first guest sat down, half of that net was already recorded. It was roughly about 21,000.
Very good.
But, and may I say too, because this is Volunteer Appreciation Month, and I'm scooting off to a volunteer appreciation event after this meeting, we couldn't do this without our volunteers. We are certainly blessed between our sponsors, our volunteers, and our wonderful guests that attend that event every year, and we're going 2 years now into a sellout. We started at 150 attending, and we're close to 350 now. It's just amazing.
Okay, if there's no other questions, Paulette would like to thank you again for coming and doing your presentation, and to the foundation for, again, doing a great job in our community.
Yeah.
If I may, I'd just like to add a note to that, just to let you know that all of our fundraising events, continuing now, will be directed towards these two key pieces of equipment until the $754,000 has been raised. That will, any fundraising that you receive, Joe Shelley, anything that comes to in the mail, all of it will be directed so that we can completely fund these two pieces. And just to get back to Danny's question on, how did the equipment get back? And it was in the hospital. We're doing a little backtracking, and it's not the normal way that we would do a campaign. Unfortunately, this government sometimes take the initiative to make the decision that this piece of equipment had to come. And as Paulette so rightfully said, if we had not agreed to fund these two pieces of equipment, we would have had to find another way, or the hospital would have found another way. Either we would have lost them or found another way to pay for them. So they're key pieces. These pieces of equipment will keep our patients and our residents in our community, less travel. That is so important. And as Paulette said, again, doctor recruitment, nurses, if you could hear Nancy McLaughlin, and we do have a video, which we apologize is not working properly, and as soon as it is, we can forward that to you, which shows how the medication management system works. And as Nancy says, the nurses are thrilled on the floor, because it's like, it's almost a toy, but you're just dispensed and look like candy in the little packages. So that, for example, if the doctor decided that you no longer needed that medication, it's not wasted, it goes back because it has not been compromised. So it's a cost savings to the hospital. It's also a way to make sure that we have the very best care with doctors, nurses, and radiologists and everything else. So hopefully that will sway you a little bit to hopefully support us. We have been to 3 council meetings so far. I can report that 2 out of the 3 agreed to support us before we left.
Great.
Thank you very much, Shirley. And when Shirley mentioned about the video that we had, it was done by Eastlink, and they can't provide a YouTube until they've aired it at least once. So I was talking to Michael McDonald today. He's actually on our PR marketing committee, and Michael had mentioned that we will have that YouTube within a couple of days. So when you do receive it, I'll send it through to your main desk, and that will be distributed as a wonderful follow-up to this meeting here this evening. So thank you so much for permitting us the time to come in and make our presentation, and we thank you in advance for consideration of our request. So we'll look forward to hearing from you, and I will leave you with a hard copy if you just want to pass that down. And so if there are no further questions, I guess we'll...
Thank you again, Paulette. And
thank you so much.
On our agenda, on number 8, financial request, it happens to have 8A, which is Yarmouth Hospital Foundation. So there you go.
Okay,
All right?
great.
So
Thank
we will
you.
be discussing it later on in
Yes.
the agenda.
Okay. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to...
Not feel free to ask us any questions at any time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Love the setup, by the way. This is great. I can remember the days coming into council, had to plug
It's just so seamless. I
Yeah.
think it's wonderful what you've done here. Just carry this little jump drive and away we go. Technology changes. Yeah.
It's not just a pretty face, that's got it.
We got it, Paul. We get the blush once.
I can tell you guys get business done, but you have a lot of fun too, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Good night.
Sorry for wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Hey.
much. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to number 4, which is business arising from the minutes. I don't know if we have any business arising, do we?
Nothing attached. I mean, I can say very quickly, there were a couple of items that do require discussion at future meetings, and I'll mention, of course, the boundary review is ongoing. There's not really a whole lot to say there. I think you know that the meetings are coming in on the, I guess it would be, 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7, and 12 of May. So I guess for those that are watching, it's another opportunity to know when those dates. And for those people so of course the locations, it's all on our website if people want to get that information. And the municipal building discussions is a business arising. I have nothing to report on that at this time. But that will be dealt with after budget deliberations are passed.
Great. No questions for Alain? Okay. Move on to number 5, which is financial report. You have an attachment of 18 pages, and I think this one is Marcia that's doing this one. Is that correct?
Did you want to start on that, or do you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Start? Okay, so at the bottom at the end of the 3rd page, we'll go to skip down to page 3, you will see the operating fund surplus of negative, I'll just go through the first 3 pages, and then if you guys have any questions, we can go into the other, because the other one's just the detail of the 3 pages. So we have a few major, just where the numbers are sticking out the most. And if you look on page 2, negative 42,000 for air transport. Well, that one was a motion that you guys had approved to give to the airport. So that's where that number is in the negative. If you look just above that, I'll just mention that one, the road transport of $18,000 savings. That was the Argyle Trails project. That one ended up coming in at costing us less than they anticipated, so that's where that savings is there. If you keep going down for housing and RDA, there's another big savings there. Part of that is the REN costs weren't, or there was, not everything was spent yet, but they're anticipating on spending it later on. Argyle Economic Development Initiatives they were anticipating a cost there, and that they haven't been spent as of now. The closure cost for the Industrial Commission, that wasn't spent. We just put it in the budget in case that we needed it. So that's basically most of the housing in RDA. If you keep going down, tourism is looking at negative 19,000. That was a motion that council had made for the branding. So there was that one coming in at that. There was also a savings of $16,000 for the special projects of Bonton. The amounts hadn't been spent there. So the difference was negative between the $35,000 that you guys approved for the emergency funding of branding. There was a savings there of $19,000. In the recreation, the big thing is the tennis courts, which you guys all know about. The tennis courts have not been fixed yet, but anticipating finishing them this year. Am I going too fast for anybody?
No.
Alright. Page, and a lot of the rest is basically transfers to and from reserves, which I think Alain wanted to kind of give his input on that.
Yes, thank you. So
Go ahead, Alain.
Okay, thanks. So from the financial report perspective, all year long, we had been carrying varying levels of a surplus throughout the year. And so now that we're in March, we'd like to plan around the new year. And so what you see in the financial report is almost a break even, or even slightly lower than a break even if you look at the non-consolidated financial statements that Marcia just presented. But there's a very good reason why that's the case. And so what we've essentially done is, and what we're going to be asking the council to approve, is additional transfers for future projects. Okay, so, and we typically do this every year, so it's not anything that's entirely new to council. So typically, so I'll just go over the transfer to capital reserves. Every year we budget 120,000 plus an interest amount. It's usually between 125 and $130,000 in the capital reserves every year. And that was originally an amount that was supposed to be earmarked for an admin building. That was years and years ago. So that commitment was for 10 years at $100,000 a year. Well, we continued to transfer funds into the capital reserves because we always have capital projects that require leveraging. And so it's part of our capital planning. It's part of our, if we're going to do projects around our infrastructure that get older and need replacement, that we need that leveraging in order to do those projects. So it's important that we have an amount every year that we transfer to capital reserves. So we had budgeted approximately $130,000, and what I'm proposing to council is that amount be increased, but for no particular purpose other than to be for capital, but one for a very specific purpose. Okay, so what I'm proposing that so I'll back up a little bit. The $80,000 that we had budgeted for the tennis courts did not get spent this year, and so our initial thought was, well, we'll bring it into operating reserves, and bring it into the operations into the new year. Since that time, had a little bit more time to look at it and discuss it, it's probably more appropriate that money comes out of the capital reserve. So in order for that money to be spent out of the reserve, it needs to go in the reserve first. So the first motion that I would like for council to consider is that 130,000 of the surplus of the unaudited surplus that we're seeing this year actually be transferred to the capital reserve, but with 100 of that being restricted to the repair and reconstruction of the tennis courts in the municipality. Now, we had already booked 80, so what I'm actually asking council to consider is another 20 in case we need it. The other factor that you should be aware of is that because we delayed the construction of the new tennis courts, we actually have made out an application for funding through the provincial government, so we may actually be leveraged on the project. So it may enable us to do more and to do it quicker. So we may not even need the full amount that we're transferring. We will only use, obviously, the amount that's required. Yes, there is a second attachment that actually reflects these motions, that actually, has these motions written out for your convenience. Also, I'd also like for council to consider a transfer of $50,000 from the operating fund to the operating reserve without restriction. So that is, there's no restriction on that fund. That's basically taking it out of one pocket and putting it into another pocket. And so I've had this conversation before around council, and everybody makes fun of the fact that I use pockets, but it's really what it is. Because this is a non-consolidated fund accounting, when you're moving money from one fund to another, it makes it look like money is coming in as a revenue, and when it leaves, it makes it look like an expense on its exit. When we consolidate our financial statements at the end of the day, all of those transfers just simply disappear, because all you're really doing is you're taking it out of one pocket and putting it into another. And so that's the request that I'm asking council to consider, to move money from one pocket to another. It makes it appear on a non-consolidated basis that we have virtually no surplus. But on our financial statements, on our financial condition analyses that you've seen, and on our financial statements that we present in the public, those transfers are excluded from the determination of surplus for obvious reasons. So it really is just moving money. And so unless there are questions, I would ask that council entertain those two motions, which I've written and attached for your
Okay.
convenience.
Councillor Donaldson.
I just want to move, the first motion, I don't think it's appropriate to make a motion for two motions at the same time, so I move that council moves the $130,000 of the March 31st, I think that's 2014.
It's supposed to be.
Yep.
Surplus unaudited to be transferred to capital reserves with $100,000 restricted to the repair and reconstruction of the tennis courts in the municipality.
Okay.
Exactly how you got it written.
Been moved. Is there a seconder?
Seconded, yeah.
Okay, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Did you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that I also support adding an extra 20,000 for those tennis courts. Like, something like that to me is, in my opinion, to put it exactly how municipal dollars should be spent in our communities. It's something everyone's going to use. It's something everyone's going to see. It's giving back. You know, they're getting a bang for their buck. So I fully support it. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Anybody else? No? So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Anybody care to move the second one? So moved by Councillor Muse, and anybody second it? Second, Councillor LeBlanc.
Just to clarify, what is the second motion exactly?
It's, it'd be an attachment. Council moves that $50,000 of the March 34th, 2014 surplus unaudited be transferred to the operating reserve without restrictions of use. Okay? I guess it's, there's two attachments there, right?
One page.
Yeah, I see it there now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right? Are you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just
Okay.
was
The pocket story.
you clear on that?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Contrary? Carried. Okay, anything else?
There would be to accept the financial statement as presented,
Okay,
would be.
Anybody? Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Book. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. Okay. Okay, number 6, other business and for decision. 6A, Western Regional Enterprise Network, Intermunicipal Agreement, an attachment with 19 pages, and I think that one is probably CAO Muse.
I was requested by Councillor Richard Donaldson to read every page word by word. Oh, sorry, that wasn't.
Send me the video.
That was a very good answer to that. I was put in my place. That was excellent. Okay, so this is the intermunicipal agreement. I'll just say that this document has been worked upon with the province of Nova Scotia and with the REN liaison committee. The board of directors of the REN has also looked at this document, provided their comments. This is the final result of that. It creates what each council listed here must do is pass a motion to accept this document so that we can go ahead and create the intermunicipal organization and in fact have the REN work as an independent organization. Okay, so I'm not going to go line by line. I think I've addressed a lot of this as we've gone through. I will say that this document on the back also includes the funding commitment. I think that's probably important for you to know. We've spoken about this before, but the amount that is expected from the municipality of Argyle this year and quite frankly for the next 4 coming years is $54,168, give or take. These may change as assessments and population information changes, but it will only change slightly. So there is, and I should also note that the liaison committee has the agreement includes 6 organizations, 5 of which include a 100% cash injection in the REN, and 1 of which includes a cash contribution along with an in-kind contribution of an economic development officer that is of equivalent value. Okay, so you should also note that, and also what would be important for you to know is that the town of Yarmouth, municipality, Yarmouth, municipality of Digby, and the municipality of Clare have all approved, and so ourselves and Digby are outstanding, and there will be 2 minor changes to this document that you should be aware of that will have absolutely no, when we go to sign it, we'll have they're minor, but I just, in full disclosure, there'll be 2 minor changes, just a word that changing one word to another word to make it more clear to the user. So, unless there are any questions, I guess the request would be that council consider a motion to approve this document as presented, or if council wish to suggest changes or make changes, now would be a good time for that.
Councillor LeBlanc, your light's on.
Just to be clear, is in no way inappropriate, given the fact that I am the representative for Argyle on this, that I make the motion?
It's absolutely appropriate.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will make the motion that we accept the intermunicipal agreement for the Western Regional Enterprise Network. I'd also like to add that this is a solid document, and it'd be just a figure of our imagination if it wasn't for our own CAO, Mr. Muse, here. So I'd just like to thank him for devoting a lot of his time to this as well.
Okay, there's a motion. Anybody care to second?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Surratt. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Okay, motion carried. All right, move on to 6B, which is Submerged Eel Lake Boat, and I think that would be maybe Councillor Albright? Okay.
Just wanted to bring everybody up to speed kind of on what's been going on with this boat. I know that we've received correspondence about the boat, we've gotten letters back, but just basically for public, it's good for them to be aware of what's going on as well. An inspection has been made, and they haven't found any contaminants near or in or around the boat, so that's not a concern whatsoever. So right now, basically, the step that we're at is we're looking on finding ownership of the boat. So that's where we are at this point. That's basically all I want to say.
Okay. Any more questions for Councillor Albright? No, thank you. Okay, move on to 6C, FCM board member expenses. I guess there's an attachment with 2 pages. And CAO Muse can shed some light.
I can shed some.
Okay.
Yes. This request is coming from the municipality of Digby. However, it's actually to the benefit of the region as far as I can see. And so the discussion did come around a REN liaison committee meeting around the possibility of having an elected official from the southwest area, from Yarmouth, Digby County, what Digby calls the REN region, to sit as a director of the FCM board. And so of course, that comes at a fairly considerable cost. And so, some of the benefits that you would have in sitting on that board might be offset by the incredible cost that a municipal unit would incur if they were to push for or to have a representative be voted to the board. Now, clearly, they'd have to be elected. There's a process. But what this letter is asking is whether the units are, who are the units willing to participate to contribute at least in some way, shape, or form financially to that person representing the region. So it's an example of where doing something together, in fact, is less costly to the taxpayers of any individual unit, and the benefit you'd have to measure the benefit. The benefits, include, just being on the radar. I would expect there's economic development benefits around being in that higher profile environment. The cost that it's included here, our portion would assume, if everybody was interested, would be $2,250, and that's based on population and assessment. And so I don't know that you have to make a decision immediately, but I think the letter does suggest that the elections are forthcoming. I'm just
For the
looking.
spring workshop or the fall conference?
It says a meeting would have to be arranged for the FCM conference at the end of May to determine whose name would be put forward at the FCM conference.
Yeah, in the fall. FCM.
FCM conference, so that would be in July, right?
Yeah, June.
Or, sorry, June, sorry. Yeah, so,
Yes, right.
so I guess the decision should be sooner rather than later. And I guess it's to you to consider for discussion.
Okay. Counselor Muse?
There is, if we decided that we wanted a board member there to represent, there's no guarantee that that person will be elected, or are they gonna create a position where there's gonna be one of the board members from this area? So we could decide on this, but it may or may not happen.
That's
If
correct.
there's no election for that member at the conference, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that members could not be elected, maybe.
Yeah, how I would envision that would work is that the leaders of the Ren region would get together and they would determine who was able and willing to be
Yes.
that person.
And
right? So-
nominate that
and
person
nominate
at
that
the
person,
conference.
But nominate that person before that as
Yes.
being a representative available to be a board member. But there's no guarantee even when you did that, that they would
No.
actually be
Elected at the conference.
At the
There's only
conference.
so many positions.
That's correct.
So it doesn't mean that we could, like, we could say yes, but that's meaning that if they're elected, we would support it, that's all.
That's correct. So the motion would be, if you were so willing, would be that you would accept to be a partner in this endeavor.
That's
But
it.
there's absolutely no, there's no guarantee at this point that you'd have to actually expend that money.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Counselor LeBlanc?
I spoke to Jimmy McAlpine about this, and he served a year in this position. He's the one who brought it up. I think it was a full year, wasn't it?
Mhm.
And he's seen the ins and outs, and there's an expense that, well, obviously, evidently, it's $12,000 to do this, but it puts your region, the way he explained it, it puts your region first-hand view of any upcoming opportunity, any new technology, anything. To me, there's no guarantee you'll receive back your $2,000, but I trust that if we do send someone to represent us and they would win that election, they'd be there, they'd have the sort of the Western Regional Enterprise, the Western region, I guess is what I should say, in mind, right? That's,
Yeah.
to benefit all of us, not just their own municipality, right? And it's sort of not a link to the Ren, but I felt it was worth every penny for $2,000 to have someone traveling to, to Ontario frequently to keep up on things, new things coming up for municipalities all over Canada. It's, I agree with it.
Okay. Warden Doctor, will you,
No, it's already been.
okay. Counselor Donaldson?
I agree with mostly what Lucien said. There being 4 directors from Nova Scotia, one, UNSM appoints one, so that would be a non-elected person, right? And the city of Halifax appoints one, which wouldn't be an elected one.
I believe that's correct.
And then usually, there's one from Halifax, and all the years I've been here, from my experience, there's usually an elected person from Halifax on the FCM most of the time anyhow. I suppose they can afford to
Yeah.
have somebody there. So there's usually only one other person from the rest of the province, elected person, like Jimmy was one. And I remember other ones over the years, but if there's only 2 elected ones, and usually one from Halifax, there's only one, is it fair to just have, like, I know it's, have us get somebody on there, not us as in Municipality of Argyle, but us, this region, focusing on issues and things that concern this into the province? Are you sort of letting down the rest of the province when you're sort of designating a person for just?
No more than the others that go there
that-
from other districts.
Yeah.
I think the president of UNSM is automatically on the board, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
it says here.
Yes, and I think that's how Jimmy,
Oh.
that's how
Yeah.
Jimmy
Oh,
was.
Jimmy got
That's why, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the municipality didn't, that was through the UNSM and not directly through the municipality.
No, I'm all in favor, but I can see where maybe they might not look kindly on a region trying to plant somebody in there all the time.
Well, you're only gonna have one person.
No, but if,
Doesn't
then the
matter
next,
if it's what region, it's,
no, but if we're gonna work at this as a region, and try to get somebody elected every time at FCM, is the rest of the province gonna look negatively on that eventually? That's all I'm worried about.
Okay. Counselor Surratt?
Certainly be in favor of this, it's just, that's something I can see coming down the road.
Okay. Counselor Surratt?
So this is 4 meetings a year, so that's a cost of $2,250 to the municipality. Is that correct? From what you see, Mr. CEO?
Yeah, they're estimating, based on their research, that the cost is $10,000 to $12,000
4 meetings?
for the year.
For the year, 4 meetings. So this person then, so this commits us just for 1 year? Is that committing us for multiple years?
I believe the term, and I'm just checking the letter to be sure. I believe the term is 1 year. So it only commits us to 1 year, and it may not be, I mean, it only commits us to that particular year if our person gets elected, but it is only 1 year commitment.
Thank you. That's what I wasn't sure. I was reading. Yeah, thank you.
I know that so just so that, you know, I think it was the mayor or warden for Guysborough had served at least one term. And so what happens is some of the larger municipalities, the 10 to 12,000 isn't as big of a consideration, right? So what typically happens is the larger municipalities get representation. So this is Southwest Nova's way of saying, well, look, well, no, we're not big, but together we are, and maybe together we can do this. So that's really the
Dean Malone
concept.
was on there too.
Yes, he was.
For 1 year. but-
It's a very big commitment
big
on the
commitment
part of that
all the
person.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would
Okay.
that take away from his work then, if it's that much of a big commitment? If he was on there, would that take a lot from doing his work for the 6 units, do you think? And you said it was a big commitment.
I think his commitment or her commitment to the
Yes.
FCM conference would be that size, whether they represent 6 or 1.
Okay.
I think what would probably suffer is
Okay.
probably the council work at home.
Right.
You know,
I
but
get
I
what
mean,
you're- No, I get what you're saying.
something would
Well, have to
have
suffer.
to, yeah.
A little bit, good.
Yeah.
Counselor Muse?
Do we know that the other units are supporting this, or we don't know that at this point? Well, if we're looking for a motion, I would make a motion that we take part in this, with the understanding that everybody, that we're not stuck with half of this cost. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, put the limit.
yeah, up to our limit here, so that if it goes through and 3 or 4 decide not to, then I think we should
So-
look at it again, but I would definitely make a motion.
Contingent on everybody else joining,
As
or?
long- Exactly. That's right.
Sorry, just as a suggestion, I would say that you commit to it and you state the amount. And then
Okay.
you don't have to talk about any
About
contingents.
anybody else.
And then if the amount ends up being higher, then you have to come back, it has to come back to
It has to come back
for
to us. Okay, I would
reconsideration.
make that motion that we support this in the amount of $22.50 for the year.
Okay, motion on the floor. Anybody care to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved by Counselor Muse, seconded by Counselor Book. Question's been called. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Okay. Move on to 6D, which is Dennis Point Sewer Extension Tender Approval. I think we're going to defer that one to in-camera. Is that correct, CEO Muse?
Yeah, there's an in-camera component to that first.
Okay.
That we need to address before we can
All right.
make a motion. Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll go to, just a minute here. Okay, that's the last one, 6. Okay, 7, correspondence and for information, waste check enforcement officer report. You have one attachment, basically telling us it's the report. If anybody has questions or anything or concerns, okay, we'll move on to the next one. Minutes of March 10th of waste check. Just lost my agenda here. I'll go find it back. There we go. Yep. Okay, nobody have anything there? Okay. Department of Transportation Infrastructure Renewal, road sign replacement. So this is a letter written to our warden. Thank you, Warden Mr. D'Entremont. Thank you for your letter of April 1st, 2014. The request was forwarded to myself to look at the Argyle Head sign on Trunk 3 near the Argyle Head Road. We have ordered the sign and have asked our sign shop to give it some priority. That being said, I expect that the sign should be up in place by the end of the month. I will let you know when the actual sign arrives. Please feel free to contact me should other issues come to your attention, which I sure will. Thank you again for your cooperation in this matter. Yours truly, William Thurston. Okay. Anybody, no comments or anything on that? I guess that's pretty straightforward. And then we've got the Department of Municipal Affairs, 7D. Another letter from the Service Nova Scotia Municipal Relations sent to the warden. This is a thank you letter of March 18th, 2014, supporting the creation of a standalone Department of Municipal Affairs. We recognize the challenges and the opportunities facing municipalities throughout Nova Scotia. The creation of the Department of Municipal Affairs reinforces our government's commitment to working with municipalities as we work collaboratively towards strengthening municipal government in Nova Scotia. Your support and willingness to work with me and the staff of the Department of Municipal Affairs is greatly appreciated. And that's from the Minister, Mr. Mark Furry, which we met here, I'm trying to think when, I forget the date, but sometimes in, is it February or March? Anyway.
You're close.
Yeah.
Close enough.
Somewhere there.
Somewhere.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Any questions or anything on that? Nope. All right, we'll move on to number 8, which is financial request, which is the Yarmouth Hospital Foundation. So I think we just had a presentation from the foundation, and I think now we should, I guess, discuss the ask. So, anybody care to, I guess, Councillor Surratt, sorry.
Probably a couple of questions for our CAO or Marshall, but I might go to CAO. We're working on the budget. I would think where you are, we're on that budget. So, would it be prudent for us to make a motion for that at this time, or wait to see where our numbers fall into? Because it's, to me, it seems a little premature before we know where we fit with the budget, but anyhow, it's up to council, but I'm just put my 10 cents word in there.
Well, I'll comment on where we are with the budget.
Yes.
We're probably 90 to 95% complete. And so we're just, I mean, some of the numbers we're still trying to iron out. I think if the council was looking to make a commitment towards this, what I would suggest in either event is to go into your operating reserve to get it. Because, I mean, if we've had previous year surpluses, that's where it would have gone.
Yeah.
And so that's one place that you can go and get that.
Yeah.
So more than likely what I would do with the budget is I would increase the current transfer in from the reserve to support the additional commitment.
Yeah.
So regardless of where we are. So I should say as well that I'm certainly not expecting an increase in any of the commercial or residential rates. You know, I guess that's a sneak peek, but you know, I'm certainly, it doesn't look like there won't be a recommended increase in the rates. We make adjustments and try to perhaps defer or delay certain projects if the income isn't as strong. So that's what I would say about that. So I would say that we would be very focused on maintaining the rates, and more than likely we would find that money from the reserve.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I think we'd like to remind the council that some of our colleagues or other units have already, I guess, pledged their amount. So, Councillor Surratt.
Okay, because of that, yes, I'd certainly like to make a motion that we support the Hospital Foundation in their endeavor to purchase that management system for the medication and the CT scanner, which is already at the hospital, and in the amount of, and somebody could maybe correct me, is it 54,168?
No.
31.
31. I'm on the rent, I'm sorry. 31,000. Thank you. Thank you for, that's why I asked council, just, yes, wrong place. Thank you. 31,070.
70.
31070.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Council Book,
I just want to, I'll second the motion.
okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Council LeBlanc?
Just curious, first off, I think evidently it's a great cause and we should probably, well, we should give. Just being sort of new here, how has requests like this been, I'm sure it's come up in the past, like how have they been handled? I don't know who I'm directing my question to, I guess, maybe our warden, are they, it seems obvious that it's the only hospital we have in our area and that's where our constituents or our residents are gonna go and we have to, support it and whatnot. It's just, have they always been supported in the past?
Warden d'Entremont.
Yeah, I would say, usually we find the money, because, and usually when they ask all the units, and in the whole area from Digby to Shelburne, and usually everybody gives. It's a good cause, because it's only a small percentage of the total.
Yeah.
Was it over 3 million, I think?
Right. To me, it seems like a no-brainer. It's just, it's a lot of money, and I just like to, I'm just curious.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded.
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Okay, now we'll move on to number 9, notice of motion. Anybody have notice of motion? Nope. Having heard none, we'll move down to number 10, question period. Do we have any questions from the media or? Nope. Okay. All right. Number 11 is in camera. So we're gonna, motion to go in camera. Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary? Okay. So we're going into camera.